Hello guys and welcome back to Planet 40k. I got something a little bit different for you today, a little bit more of a relaxed video, chilled out video, and we're going to be talking about HQ models within the Necron Codex and what is the best unit to synergize with those said models. So there are 17 HQs within the Codex, and yeah, we're going to work out throughout the video which ones are the best units to go with them. So let's begin with the first one, which I believe is Anrakyr The Traveller. So first we have Anrakyr The Traveller. And for me, the best unit to take with Anrakyr The Traveller is the Lich Guard. For a few reasons really. First of all, of course, the My Will Be Done ability, the Relentless March Aura ability. Also for the Lord of the Firian Legion's Aura ability, so you can be giving core units within 6 inches an additional attack. That's pretty nice with those Hyperphase Swords or those War Scythes. And also don't forget the Lich Guard's ability, which is the Guardian's Protocol's Aura. And when you've got an infantry noble within 3 inches of your Lich Guard models, they can use the Lookout Sir ability even if you've got less than 3 models remaining. So a nice little synergy between those two units. Next we come on to the Catacomb Command Barge, one of my personal favourites within the Necron Codex. And for me, this kinda can go with anything that's pretty quick. In this case, I've gone with the Canoptic Wraiths. The reason why, both units are moving at 12 inches, although the Command Barge will be giving the Relentless March Aura to the Canoptic Wraiths, so they'll actually be moving 13 inches. All of the models here are quite resilient. I mean, the Command Barge itself has got the 5+ invulnerable save with the Quantum Shielding. The Canoptic Wraiths have got the 4+ invuln save with the Wraith Form ability. Both have pretty much got fly. I know Canoptic Wraiths don't have fly, but they can go through models as if they weren't there. They can go through terrain as if they weren't there. So it's kind of the same thing as fly, except they're not actually attacking aircraft units. But I think that's the most resilient option for your Catacomb Command Barge, because the Command Barge itself isn't that punchy. I would like it to be a little bit more punchy in future editions. So going with the Canoptic Wraiths I think is more of an objective stealer and objective holder, but doing it at a much quicker pace. Next on the list we've got the Chronomancer, and for me I can't look any further than the Skorpekh Destroyers. Now those Skorpekh Destroyers want to get into a fight, so a reroll to their charge roll with a Chronometron ability is absolutely key, and of course they get the 5+ invulnerable save on top of that, which they don't actually have an invuln save at all. So a perfect combination. Definitely would advise using the Chronomancer with the Skorpekh Destroyers. Next one is a little bit of a tricky one, Illuminor Szeras, one of our named dynastic agents. He's going to relate to a lot of core units within the Codex, which is quite a lot of the Codex, isn't it really? And for this one I've gone with the Canoptic Spiders. Now I personally quite like the Spiders, but there is a reason that I've chose the Spiders. First of all, there's quite a lot of reasons. The Rites of Reanimation ability, so you can be bringing one of those Canoptic Spiders back. Bearing in mind that's a minimum of 60 points being returned. Could be potentially a bit more depending on the upgrade options you've taken with the Spiders, with the Particle Beamers, the Fabricated Claw Array, the Gloom Prism. And speaking of the Gloom Prism, it's of course an anti-psycho piece of war gear, which actually synergizes quite nicely with Illuminor Szeras' Empyric Overcharger ability to make enemy units peril on doubles as opposed to a double 1 or a double 6. Further to add to that, the Mechanical Augmentation ability. Now this is a random result on a D3. One of them is the strength, one of them increases the toughness, and one increases the ballistic skill. Now if you were to say use this on Necron warriors, only really the toughness and the ballistic skill is actually going to be any use, because the strength, yeah, you don't want those guys in combat. Whereas with the Canoptic Spiders and you're taking the Particle Beamers with them, all 3 of these options are pretty good. So no matter what you roll with this D3 result, it's going to be a good result. If you're getting +1 to your strength, now all of a sudden you've got Strength 9 Spiders with the Automated Claws. If you're getting an extra bit of toughness, now all of a sudden they're toughness 7. And of course the ballistic skill will give them a 3+ ballistic skill as opposed to a 4+. And bear in mind these change the actual characteristics of the datasheet. They're not a +1 or -1 to hit. So you can also use a My Will Be Done ability from say Necron Overlord and stack it alongside the +1 to the ballistic skill characteristic. So yeah, for me, I'm going to go with the Canoptic Spiders with Illuminor Szeras. Okay, on to one of the dynastic specific characters, which is Imotekh The Stormlord. Now I did use play Sortek back in the day, but yeah, they got kind of made redundant with the custom codes. There's just much better options in the custom codes, isn't there? But if I was to select a unit to synergize alongside Imotekh, it's got to be the Necron Warriors with the Gorse Flayers, not the Gorse Reapers. You need the rapid fire weapons if you're playing Sortek, so I would definitely take the Gorse Flayer Warriors. Again, My Will Be Done, so they're going to be hitting on a 2+, Relentless March Aura, so they're moving 6 inches. It's just a shame they can't take a Resurrection Orb, isn't it? Next we've got the Lokhust Lord. Not in my good books at the moment. I don't really see a need for any of the Destroyer Lords really, but for a decision today I'm going to go with the Lokhust Destroyers. Now I was tempted to say the Lokhust Heavy Destroyers, but I'm going to go with the Lokhust Destroyers. Now of course mainly you're talking about the United in Destruction Aura ability to be able to reroll win rolls of a 1 for your Destroyer Cult units. Now of course don't get me wrong, that's still pretty good for your Lokhust Heavy Destroyers carrying the Gorse Destructors, but that's only 3 shots. So my thinking behind taking just the standard Lokhust destroyers with this model was when they're taking the Gorse cannons and you're taking a unit of 6 of them, that's going to be 18 shots. So there's going to be a lot more ones that you can actually re-roll with that ability. And of course you can still take a Lokhust heavy destroyer within that unit too. So I've gone with the Lokhust destroyers on this occasion. As for the Necron Lord, this one, I think this one's okay. I've gone with the death marks. Now I like the death marks. The death marks are a little bit like Marmite. You either love them or you hate them. I quite like them. The reason for taking the Necron Lord with the death marks is because they already hit on a 2+. So you don't need My Will Be Done from your overlords and things like that. However, with the Lord's Will ability, the Necron Lord will grant your death marks rerollable ones when they're rolling to hit, which is actually really important, especially if you're trying to snipe out character models. You've only got, say, 10 of them in a unit if you're taking 10. Every shot counts, especially if you can roll a 6 to wound to inflict a mortal wound on top of the damage. So yeah, Necron Lord going with the death marks there. Back to one of the dynastic characters, it's Nemesor Zahndrekh. He's a bit of a dead pick, to be honest with you, isn't he? I mean, the Skorpekh dynasty isn't that favourable as it is, and if you were to select one of the named characters, you're probably going to take Imotekh The Stormlord. But if you were to take Nemesor Zahndrekh, then I've just gone with the Canoptic Spiders again here, and I'm going to give you my reason why. So My Will Be Done again, so you're going to be hitting on 3s as opposed to 4s. The Relentless March Aura to give them a little bit more speed with their movement. But the Transient Madness ability that Nemesor Zahndrekh has is also another random roll, very similar to Illuminor Szeras. And on a D3, it's going to either be an extra attack per model in the unit, it's going to improve the ballistic skill value by 1, or it's going to be a re-rollable charge roll. Again, all 3 of these options are very nice for a Canoptic Spider unit. Extra attacks, extra ballistic skill, or re-rollable charge roll. It's only really the Chronomancer that can actually give that kind of ability. So yeah, for this one I'm going to go with the Canoptic Spiders again. On to another named character, which is another dead character in my opinion, Orikan The Diviner. Is there really ever an occasion where you need to bring out Orikan The Diviner? Probably not. You may as well just take a normal Chronomancer, which is actually cheaper and just a lot better than Orikan The Diviner. However, there is one unique thing he does have over the standard Chronomancer, which is the Master Chronomancer ability is going to be working on all Necron units as opposed to Dynasty Necron units. So that means you can actually be using that re-rollable charge roll with your C'tan shards. So for this occasion, I've gone with my favourite C'tan shard, which is the Nightbringer. You want to be getting that Star God into a fight, so having a re-rollable charge roll is probably the best option for Orikan The Diviner with the Nightbringer. Okay, next on to the standard generic Necron Overlord. I've gone with the Necron Warriors. This one's quite an easy one. Relentless March Aura again, My Will Be Done again. But this time we've got the added option of a Resurrection Orb, which is pretty good for a 20-man warrior unit to be bringing those models back. So a nice easy one there. On to one of the Cryptechs with the Plasmancer. Now this one took me a while to work out, but because I don't normally use a Plasmancer, but I've gone with the C'tan shard of the Void Dragon. So the reasons are as follows. So first of all, the Plasmancer kind of needs to get a little bit closer to enemy units to be using the Living Lightning ability it has, and potentially the Harbinger of Destruction ability, although that is 24 inches, so that's got a little bit more scope, but it is the nearest enemy unit. So you kind of want to pick and choose your enemy unit, so you're going to get a little bit closer than you want to. So the Plasmancer effectively is going to be throwing out mortal wounds at close range. And the Void Dragon kind of does a similar job. I mean, it can fight, don't get me wrong, but you're also throwing out mortal wounds at a close range with the C'tan powers. But also, you've got the Spear of the Void Dragon, which is a 12-inch range shooting attack, which is basically a line from your Void Dragon up to the enemy target. And anything from your model to their model on that line is also going to get hit by the attack. So in terms of range capabilities, quite similar to each other, which is why I've paired these up in this video today. On to another Cryptech, the Psychomancer, another model that I don't really take that often. I do experiment with him every now and then, but I don't think he's that great. I think a Chronomancer is just better when you take the Cryptic Arcana, that's specifically for the Chronomancer. But there is a unique synergy here with the Flayed ones. So first let me read the Psychomancer's ability, which is the Nightmare Shroud Aura. So while an enemy unit is within 6 inches, they're subtracting 1 from their leadership characteristics and subtracting 1 from the combat attrition test taken for the units. Now if you jump into the Flayed Ones datasheet, they've got the Terrifying Foes Aura ability. So while an enemy unit is within 3 inches of the unit, subtract 2 from the leadership characteristics of the models in that unit. So if you're pairing both of these units together, your Psychomancer and the Flayed Ones, that's actually going to be -3 to the enemy leadership, which is actually quite a huge difference when you think about it. Does that mean to say start bringing out a Psychomancer? Probably not, but yeah, that's probably the best synergy for a Psychomancer. Okay, on to the Royal Warden next, which kind of lost its way a little bit when we got our command protocols upgraded last year, which was a good thing, don't get me wrong. Our command protocols are much better now, but one of those command protocols is the protocol of Conquering Tyrant, which allows us to fall back and still shoot. That was the Royal Warden's party trick, so being able to do that potentially all game or within a selected turn or selected battle round, it kind of makes the Royal Warden less useful than he used to be. But I'm going to still pair him today with the unit, and I'm going to go with the Lokhust Heavy Destroyers. I was quite tempted to go with Necron Warriors, the standard combination there. But Lokhust Heavy Destroyers, they do not want to be in a fight. They need to be shooting those Gorse Destructors every single turn that they are alive. So having a Royal Warden with them, getting them out of combat without the -1 to hit penalty, giving them the chance to still fire every single turn, I think is a pretty good option. Now don't get me wrong, I'd rather just use say a Technomancer with the Veil of Darkness, so I'm bringing back those Lokhust Heavy Destroyers every turn as well as healing them. And if I do get caught in combat, I could just use the Veil of Darkness relic and disappear to the other end of the battlefield. But we're talking about the Royal Warden at the moment, and I'm going to go with the Lokhust Heavy Destroyers. Okay, on to another Destroyer Lord. You guys know I don't like these, but the Skorpekh Lord was fantastic when the edition started in 9th edition. Now, not so much, is very overpriced. This is turning into a bit of a unit review, but yeah, there's not really many units that synergize with the Skorpekh Lord. For today I picked the Skorpekh Destroyers because of course the United in Destruction aura ability to reroll 1s to wound, but to be honest I personally don't think you need it. If a full unit of Skorpekh Destroyers get hold of something in combat, the likelihood is they're taking it down. So having the Skorpekh Lord there for 130 points to babysit, I just don't think they're required. I mean, for 120 points you can actually buy 4 more Skorpekh Destroyers in a separate unit, so I'd rather have that than have the Skorpekh Lord. Okay, getting near to the end guys, we've got the Technomancer now, which is the last Cryptek within this video. This one is a really tricky one because he can synergize with virtually the entire codex depending on the war gear. He can go with the Canoptic units, he can get the fly keywords, we can go with the fast units, he can be healing stuff. But for today's video, I'm going to be sticking with the Canoptic Spiders. I know they've had a mention or two already in this video, but I think it's really key being able to bring our most expensive core unit back, well, core model within a unit if you like, because you can't be bringing back say a Ghost Art because yeah, once it's gone it's gone. But with the Canoptic Spiders, if you take 3 of them and 1 goes, you could be bringing 1 back, you can be healing another one if you wanted to with the Canoptic Cloak, but the likelihood is you're going to be taking the Canoptic Control node to be giving these guys D3 extra attacks per model. And don't forget the Canoptic Spiders are bringing back Canoptic Scarab, so there's a 3-way synergy there which I really am a fan of. On to the penultimate option, we've got Trazyn The Infinite. You guys like Trazyn from the book of course, but in terms of the actual game itself of 40k, yeah, he's absolute crap, isn't he? Let's be honest. I've just gone with Necron Immortals here. I kind of felt bad for Necron Immortals, they've done nothing wrong. I've picked Necron Warriors a few times in this video. Basically, mine will be done to be hitting on 2s, the Relentless March Aura to have a movement of 6 inches. But other than that, there's nothing else really in his datasheet that's going to link to much else. There's no War Gear options, there's no Relic options. When he dies you can bring him back as another character, but I think that's a bad thing. You now have to destroy one of your other character models within the game, but I suppose you do get a stratagem for free, hey. And then on to the final one, which is another bad one unfortunately. We've ended on a low here. Vargard Obyron from the Sortek Dynasty. He's basically a Sortek Dynasty Lord, a little bit more choppy with a War Scythe and a few extra abilities that link up with Nemesor Zahndrekh, which in fact is the unit that I'm going to be synergizing with Vargard Obyron. First of all, the Vargard's Duty Aura. So Vargard Obyron can basically use a Lookout Sir ability to protect Nemesor Zahndrekh. And also the Ghost Walk Mantle, which I remember this being good in the old days. Now you just teleport anywhere on the battlefield and get within 3 inches of Nemesor Zahndrekh. Now he hasn't got the Veil of Darkness relic, so the only way to get him across the battlefield is to pretty much use a Ghost Arc or a Night Scythe. I mean, that could be an option, don't get me wrong. Nemesor Zahndrekh can jump in a Ghost Arc, go across the battlefield. Vargard Obyron pops out with the Ghost Walk Mantle, but yeah, it's not something I would take. So guys, that's my 17 HQs and the best synergies in my opinion. Of course, this is just my opinion, guys. If you've got a different opinion, put it down in the comments below. Everybody's got their own playstyles and everybody's got their different way of just doing things. But yeah, that's my 17 HQs and their synergies. Don't forget to like the video if you like this kind of content. Remember to subscribe as well if you are new around here. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you next time.